Hey guys, welcome to the Troy Gramling podcast. I am so glad that you are here today. You know, we've been talking to some of the folks that have been part of Potential Church in the past in unique ways, see what they're doing now, how God is using them. And we're really learning about life. I love the podcast because we get an opportunity to talk to real folks who are doing real well to teach us how to do the same thing. And today, well, it's no exception. All the way from way up north, Pastor Scot Mendenhall is with us today. Welcome, Scott.
Well, I am so stoked to be on here. Minnesota is a fabulous place to live year-round, in case anyone was wondering. And it's not part of Canada. It is part of the United States of America. Just to get that out of the way right from the get-go, Troy. But what a privilege to sit here and chat with you over the next few moments.
Well, we're excited and always excited to see what you're doing and how it's all happening. But let's start. Just kind of introduce yourself. Tell us about your family a little bit and what you're doing there in Minnesota.
Yeah, so, your questions you're going to set up and I could rant forever, so cut me off whenever. I am married to a wonderful woman named Holly. I heard you interview somebody on your podcast and they just said for a long time, and you were like, you can tell you've been married a long time when you just said for a while. But 22 years we've been married. We have 8 children. I know all the listeners immediately are going, 8 children. Are they all theirs? Yes. Holly gave birth to all of them. No twins. The oldest is 15. The youngest is 4. No, we do not own a TV in our bedroom. And no, we don't know what causes it. We're just good at it. Those are the questions everyone asks us. We get people staring at us at Costco. Well, more Holly. I don't do Costco things. But I left Potential Church 9 years ago. I shouldn't say left. That sounds negative, Troy. Right. I was really sent out by you in the leadership to plant a church in the tundra of Minnesota up here in the Twin Cities of Minnesota. We just celebrated, I think 2 weeks ago, 8 years as a church. Wow. How time flies. Yeah. And it's been quite a privilege to take what we've learned there and figure out how to use it here to partner with people to unlock their God-given greatness. That might sound familiar.
Well, you know, Scott is, for those of you listening, he's a pretty creative dude. You can tell by his background compared to mine. But also, you and Holly, when it comes to naming your children as well. So tell us the 8 names of your youngins.
Yeah, for those that are watching on YouTube, I have to use my hands. If you're listening, you won't notice. But if I don't, I'll miss one. And there is no grace given towards children when they're this age for forgetting their name, right? So we got legend, epic, icon, historic, inspire, greatness, courage, and revolution. And the reason we named them that was we wanted to tell them we expect greatness in them, but not out of like being popular or making money or a job. It's go out and earn your name, because every one of those names are earned. They are given to someone. They are not, no one goes and labels themselves, hey, I'm a legend. And if they did that, people would look at them and go, and they're a bit cocky. They're not very humble, but it's the way people live through a generation, through their life. They get those labels. And so we're constantly trying to parent through that lens. Hey, today, go earn your name today. Legend and epic compete in a local cross-country team here in Minnesota. And it's just always telling them, hey, go out there and earn your name today. You're going to have to hurt. You're going to have to suffer a little bit, but don't be beaten by the race today. Get out there and be a legend and make the journey epic today to epic.
Mm. So how's that as they've gotten older? How's that played out?
I mean, it's awesome. Like, I know somebody wants, I should have brought one of them out here, right? Because they all get it. It's a bit of the parenting strategy. It's parenting with the end in mind. I think, like, I'm pretty passionate about a lot of things, but one of the things I really am passionate about lately is parenting. I just think we got a generation of parents not parenting. They want to be best friends, and that's saved for when they move out of the house. Then you can't be. We need parents to step up and parent from the get-go. And so you got to parent with the end in mind, not today. Because I read in a book long ago that when you're parenting at young ages, the days seem long, but the years are short. And if you forget the years are really short, you're going to get stuck in the minutia of parenting. And so you got to parent. What do you want them to be when they're grown up? Not what do you want them to do? They'll sort that out, right? they'll sort out what they want to do. I watched you with your kids. I had the privilege to watch your two boys grow up in ministry, Troy, and watch you partner with them as they try to figure it out, and how you gave them space to wiggle a little bit when trying to figure out, Carson trying to figure what he wanted to do. You gave enough room for them to figure out, but a safe environment to where if they did fail, you'd be right there, scoop them up. And so it's playing out so far. I mean, we've not parent past 15, almost 16, but so far they get it. And I also think it's Holly and I are we try to live it as well, push ourselves, because to earn those names, you can't just be status quo. Right. You can't be average. You can't be like everybody else in the world. You're going to have to pursue Jesus. Mm-hmm. At the end of the day, that's the one quality that's going to be the game changer for them. But I don't own the relationship with Jesus. I'm going to push them that direction. I'm going to give them wisdom on what would Jesus say. But at the end of the day, it's their personal relationship with Jesus that they own. I don't.
That's right. Hal Mayer, who was executive pastor here a long time ago, actually, he's going to be on a little bit later, but he said, and it's never forgotten, that you really don't know how good a parent you are until your kids become parents. He said that's really because if they become good parents, then you parented with that end in mind. Sometimes as a parent, we forget that the goal is to send them out. They're not for us in a sense. And it's not until they go out sometimes that we know how, we can see, like you said, you can see the direction they're going. You can see what they're thinking and their attitudes and those kind of things. So you can feel confident about where they're going to end up. But I know as a pastor or a speaker even, it's a lot more comforting to talk about parenting as they get older. You've been through teenage years with some of them, so you can talk about that.
Yeah. And I'm going to rat on myself in case somebody goes, oh, does he have perfect kids? No way. Here, and I've not parented correctly. Here's one of my more funny and appropriate fails as a parent. Legend and Epic, when we first moved up here, leaving potential or being sent out by potential church to start the church, we get up here and one of the kids used the F word. And I was like, no, I know you heard that in a superhero show. No, that's not appropriate. Don't do that. Well, one of the kids a couple days later rats on Legend. Hey, he said the F word in the football game. And I was like, what? We just talked about that. What are you talking about? Like, okay. And he got in trouble. I sent him to the bathroom and we had a big stern talking. Well, the third time he's in the shower, drops something in the shower, and he goes, oh, and I was like, no, get out. And he got a spanking, and I washed his mouth out with soap. I just went to town on it because no way, that is not acceptable speech. Well, Epic, who's standing there watching this whole thing, he goes, Dad, can I ask, what does the F word mean? And I go, well, how have you heard? He goes, well, when people say, oh, fudge, I just thought it was a funny way of talking. I was like, wait, is the F word that you guys keep saying is fudge? And they're like, yeah. And all of a sudden I was like, oh no, I've just made the swear word like fudge, just fudge, like not even the swear word, right? Just fudge. He got his mouth washed out with soap and a spanking, and I had to humbly apologize very rapidly of that word's okay. It's the other word. Oh man,
you'll get to either hear that in an illustration or read it in a book sometime in the future when he writes it.
Sure. Yeah, I'll have to pay the counseling bill or something, I'm sure.
Oh my goodness. So how in the world do you go from South Florida, where it's always hot, it's never cold, up to Minnesota, where it's almost just the opposite?
I think in the day, it's when you're called. That doesn't matter, right? I remember coming to you, little sweaty palms, probably this time of year, 9 years ago or so, and just sharing. I felt God calling me to do something, and you helped me process. Is it start something new or go be a lead pastor somewhere? You asked some tough questions, and my hands were sweating because I didn't want to disappoint you because I love you and I always want to. I'm one of your biggest cheerleaders, rooting you on. I wanted to see the vision that God placed in your heart through to the deadline, right, to the finish line. But God stirred in my heart something I couldn't deny, and I just said, "Hey, here's what I'm feeling." And you asked some questions, left, came back. Here's what I'm thinking, and you helped me kind of figure out, okay, it's easier to, I think you said it and it just stuck with me. It's easier to give birth than to resurrect the dead. And that's always stuck with me. Sometimes I might disagree with that now that I've church planted through 2020. But I don't know. I don't have the experience of the other. But through a process of you figuring out, okay, we're going to start a church. And then it wasn't throwing a dart on a map. It was, where's God calling us? We know we're called into church planting, but where? And it wasn't because of money or people. That was not going to move us. I've never been a guy moved by either one of those two things. And it was really where's God calling us? And when we felt that it was a place that I grew up as a child visiting all summers up here, it was easy, it was easy to move. Now the adjustment and things of that nature, hard, but man, when God calls you, we read through scriptures of the men and women of heroes of our faith, right? We read their stories, but we turn the page and we don't get the struggle that they have. But man, they're all called and they're just being obedient to a calling. And somebody asked me in 2020, oh, are you going to leave because this is hard? I was like, no, you don't leave your calling unless you're uncalled. You do till you're uncalled, not because it gets hard. I think that's happened a lot in the churches these days. Pastors are just doing it until, well, that's hard, I'm out. And we don't have that grit that we see in our the men and women of our faith in the scriptures, that we're standing on their shoulders, that they gritted out a lot of things. And so I love all the seasons. Like here, the leaves are starting to change. I like that it's cooler. I love being able to wear shorts and hoodies at night by a fire. I love those things. So I'm built for it, very much so. There are times though, Troy, I'll be honest, in the middle of winter, I do miss not having to put on a complete snowsuit to go for a couple mile run. I do miss that. But when you're called, it doesn't really matter what the scenario is, I suppose.
I was reading the new biography on Elon and Elon Musk. And I'm just amazed by what one man can do. And he's not even that old in his lifetime. He can go to space. He can start an electric car revolution. He can begin PayPal. Just incredible. But what's been amazing about the book is all the pain that he's gone through, as you were talking a few moments ago. And, you're talking about somebody that doesn't profess to be a believer, so doesn't have the Holy Spirit, but has a sense of drive. And I think anytime I read a book like that, I was talking with the staff today, I'm always looking for the principles and then do they align with scripture? Because I think a lot of people who don't even believe there is a God succeed because of the truth of what God's put down, and I think he's one of them. And just amazing. I see him, I always hear, because I haven't known that much about him. I've always heard, he's the richest man in the world or one of the richest men in the world, a billionaire. But then you see the pain that he's gone through to do those things, because he's not smarter. He's smart, there's no doubt, but he's not the smartest dude that's ever lived. It's just his pain tolerance is high. And I think anybody who's going to succeed at anything has to have a high pain tolerance.
Yeah, I think most people quit before they get to the finish line. So they pay partial price for whatever they're calling or whatever they were into, the dream they're pursuing. They paid part of it, but that's all they have is I quit in the middle of the pain. You never got to the finish line to see the success or some of the success. It's the principle of always place one grain of rice on a balancing scale, right? Let's say you have 5 pounds over here on one side of the scale, and every day you put a piece of rice. You don't know what day that next piece of rice hits, it's going to tip the scale. Most people quit before that last piece of rice because they're over it. They're like, this is stupid. I see no progress. But it's crazy when I've done this. We did it. We still hold camps like we did there during the summer. And we did a version. We called it the Paul Bunyan Challenge. And we made a life-size balancing scale. And they had to toss logs and move 200 pounds. They had to tip the scale. And it was one log, finally, after an hour and a half of tossing logs as a team, that the scale just, and it went slow. But as soon as it happened, the cheering, they forgot all the pain, the splinters they had. And we just got a lot of people quitting on their dreams and their callings because they got splinters and it wasn't what they signed up for. They thought, oh, I see Elon and he's just overnight success. Maybe what generation you grew up in, Justin Bieber, overnight success. No, they've all paid prices. And we all want success and fame and popularity and money without paying the price. No, get out of here. Gotta pay the price. Gotta pay the price. It's just, but no one wants that. It's a grit test. How much grit do you have?
That's good. And it's so true no matter what you're pursuing. Now, what year did you go up there?
Well, it'd be 9 years ago. So what is that? 2014-ish, I think.
Okay. So you've been up there 5 or 6 years when the pandemic and then all that went with it. And being in Minnesota, you not only had to deal with the pandemic, but, lots of political turmoil up in your area. I don't know where everybody's politics is, but I will tell you, it was, I am appreciative for our governor because he allowed us back to normal life pretty quick. But how did you deal with not so much the pandemic, because everybody had to wrestle with that, but how did you deal with the political aspect of that? Because one of the things that I felt during that time that is really rare is, for the first time, at least in my lifetime, the enemy did a great job of getting people who agreed to divide, to be divisional. In other words, we all believe racism is bad, and yet the people who believe racism is bad found themselves at one another, or that a virus is bad, but we all believe that, and yet we were fighting about masks, all that kind of stuff. So it was really difficult and challenging to speak to everybody, and again, not being soft. So how did you deal with that, especially being up there in Minnesota?
Man, Minnesota was the second strictest on COVID. I'm going to use the word policy, but somebody will even argue with that it wasn't policy, it was control, whatever it was, right? But it was so strict. It was unbearable at times to be able to do ministry even. But man, you couldn't make anybody happy, right? If you tried to be neutral, it was like, no, that means you're going on that side. So if you were like, no, you can do whatever you want. Like, no, that means you're anti-vaccine or you're pro-mask or whatever it is. Like, nope, I'm just, what would love require you to do? You answer that, and I think we'll all get along. And it was very polarizing because as a pastor in ministry, it was like, I'm not really trying to pick a side. I'm not trying to teach political agenda. I'm trying to come back and go, hey, what does Jesus have to say in these given situations? How to love your people that you disagree with, or how if you see it, you vote differently, you can still get along. That I think, creativity in one of the ethos. I don't know if you guys still have the ethos at Potential, but one of those ethos of collaboration or diversity, either one of these you can plug and play here. Is collaboration, that I work on this project alone, or diversity? Is there anyone not like me in the room or on the project with me? Those two things make things difficult. Because when you get somebody that's diverse, they're going to have different opinions than you. They're going to have a different background. But the beauty of that brings in a really healthy collaboration, which gives you the ultimate best product, product if you're building something, right? Best teaching if you're a communicator, best video if you're creating, whatever it is. Collaborating is difficult, but it's great. And you got to learn how to set aside your agenda, your opinion when you're collaborating to get the best thing. And I felt during 2020 and 2021, there was no collaboration. You're either for me or against me. We can't be friends if you're against me. And just watching people, why are you leaving church to go to that church? Oh, they make everyone wear masks. Right. Oh, why'd you pick that church? Oh, because no one has to wear masks. It's like, well, that's right. Last time I checked, that's not why you make decisions. You know what I mean? So I don't know if I really answered your question there, Troy, but it's no one was prepared for it. I get it in every industry. It was very different. I'm not trying to say pastors had it easier or more difficult. It's just, it is what it is. You're leading groups of people. I think that's where you experienced it, where you had groups of people. It became challenging to meet people and continue to spread the gospel, the story of Jesus to people, because it was just difficult. We, as I said earlier, we did camps. I think it was 2021. We got to come back and do camps in the parks around here and in the Twin Cities. They said, yes, you can rent our parks, but you have to keep everybody at least 6 feet apart. I was like, what 6 feet apart? Like, and they said we'd have somebody out there to monitor it. I was like, 6 feet apart. Like, we're dealing with teenagers and elementary kids in these different, how are we going to do that? And so we ended up moving.
That doesn't matter.
No.
Just do it.
Just do it, right? And so we just were like, okay, we'll do camp online then, because that's not going to be a good experience. It'll make sharing the gospel harder. And the last piece on that, Troy, we were at the time meeting in a school. We rented a school and things were going great. We were really healthy in everything, all the metrics for your church at the age we were. Finances were healthy, attendance healthy. And then the school kicked us out like a couple of weeks before it became a thing. Actually, I came back from South Florida. I had just been down there and got on a plane as they are announcing things are going to shut down. We get here and boom, things shut down and kicked out of the school. And eventually a year later, they let us back in the school, but we had to turn in every Sunday a roster who came to church with their phone number and address. And let's just say the government.
Oh, because we had the first, because we could have, when you could have 10 people, because at the beginning, even here, they didn't know. So you could only have 10 people. So we had the police show up, and count our people to make sure, and of course we were doing it like we were doing online. But that for the first time in my life, I'd never been afraid of the government until COVID. And then all of a sudden I'm like, wow, this could happen, because it happened so quick.
Yeah.
Fear is such a scary thing simply because it makes us do crazy things, not just, COVID fear, but just any kind of fear can cause people to make horrific decisions.
Yeah. Yeah. Man. It may, the term Karen came around that time as well. And there are a lot of people being Karens, and sorry for any person named Karen, actually. But the meaning of Karen is like a bunch of busybodies just telling you you're doing it wrong. Yeah. And that doesn't seem to have stopped very much in the ministry. Everybody feels like they have the platform to say, that wasn't a very good teaching. Worship wasn't very good. It's like, I think we're missing it if it's always about what you consume out of church. I think we're supposed to still come to the house, the church, and go, God, did I do good today? Did I give you worth today? Did I give you credit for being big and in control and sovereign? How do I do today? Instead, I didn't really like that communicator today. I didn't like that song. That worship leader's not the best. It's just like we got it all backwards on what we're supposed to be doing as followers of Jesus about being a part of a church.
So I know, just to kind of change directions here a little bit, you, if anybody watches or follows you, and before we go, I want to talk a little bit about your one-wheel journey there. But you're a creative guy, so tell us a little bit. What are some of the keys? Somebody's out there either watching or listening, and in whatever area of ministry or business they're in or life, what are some of the things that have helped you to not settle, and instead to push towards something different, something creative, something out of the ordinary?
Okay. And I am a guy that consumes most of your content, Troy. So from your podcast, your weekend teachings, I enjoy your wisdom even from afar. I'm glad technology allows me to get that. I was just listening to, and I don't even know if you remember when you just drop nuggets of wisdom, it's like, oh, that's good. I'm going to file that away. Went away. I remember in a staff meeting, you talked about at the time, you might have been the age I am now when I was on staff. If we do the math, it might be that might be about right. But you were just talking about, as you keep reading books and leadership books, you have to read to the very end to get something out of it. Whereas early on in ministry and leadership, you read the first chapter, and it's like, oh, I got a lot of work to do. And I didn't quite understand that sitting there, because everything was like amazing. I was just consuming so much, and it didn't take me very much time to figure out, to pull something out. Now I start to see what you mean. I've read it. Not every, but so many books on leadership and creativity that I got to discipline myself to stay to the end, because there's going to be one thing in there I can pull out and apply. And it's that first thing in creativity is be disciplined to stay through learning and picking up other people's ideas and being humble to learn from other people, never stop learning. And so I've enjoyed being able to continue to learn from you, and just I really enjoyed the Abraham Lincoln podcast. Seriously, what are you doing with your life if you're listening to this? Stop listening to this. Go back and listen to some of the other ones from Troy. He's killing it. Just on the communication piece, it's like, you nailed it. But when it comes to that creativity piece, what fires me up a lot with people, I'm not very creative. But yet you'll go to sleep tonight, and your brain will tell you the most detailed story and create it from nothing with the details of you felt like it was real. You wake up sweating or scared. Tell me you're not creative after you have a dream like that. We're all creative. Just others have been disciplined enough to stay in the moment to be creative and to unlock that. And so it's just me always exercising that muscle to again stay in the room past the first idea. My first idea usually is a sucky one, right? It's like it's the first brick. It's about 20 bricks later of eventually we're ready to debut it to the people, right? And so they only see success, but because behind closed doors we failed a bunch. And so to be creative is to fail.
Yeah. I can't be afraid of failure. That's you'll have to read. I mean, I've really enjoyed the biography of Elon. I mean, he's not always a nice person, but it's just, I look at his life. I look at some of our early, like a George Washington. In ministry, I look at like a Jerry Falwell, who grew a large church, started a college. I mean, he did everything, necessarily different than I would. But man, you have to appreciate folks who in one lifetime can, you look at some of our colleges and, it's been 100 years for them to become what they are. And Liberty University is more than it was when he was here, but it was a full functioning large university while he was still alive, and to me, that stuff's inspiring, as long as our heart beats and our lungs take in air, there's still something for us to accomplish. So tell us, I'm just going to switch totally.
Well, I want to add one more thing,
okay.
Troy.
All right, sure.
One thing, because I'm going to borrow your line when you talked about marriage. This is one of the things I picked up from you in one of your podcasts a couple weeks ago. You were talking about, you read it in some book, healthy marriages that make the distance get past 5 years, 10 years, is that they spend a great deal of time remembering reflecting on those moments of highlights, the highlight reel, the exciting things they do. And I think that's beautiful inside relationships, and we should do that. That's healthy relationships. I think some of the sabotaging that we do in creativity is we look backwards and think the best is already come instead of always looking forward. Outside of relationships, that's why I want to say this. Inside relationships, I love to stay in the moment and look backwards and create new memories, but also to look back where we've come from as a family and as a couple. But when it comes to creativity, I don't, Troy, outside of knowing I was coming on here, I don't really think of my days at potential of what I did. Of making it rain one time in a teaching. Those things, I don't come up in meetings. I don't reflect on those things. I'm always thinking about where we headed. I'm looking forward, probably in an unhealthy manner, but I'm always looking forward instead of backwards. I always think about, I step in my car, my windshield's big. Why? Because I'm supposed to be focused on the going forward, and just glance backwards a little bit is healthy. Glance back, cool, move forward. And so Danny jumped on before you got here, and he was just telling me about his boys and how they grew up, and he and have married two ladies from the student ministry, which I know who they are as well. But just thanking me for doing what I did in ministry, and that just, I never even think about it. But to hear that, boy, does that fill your cup, right? Like, oh man, it did matter. And so I think people want to be creative. Think towards the future. Don't look backwards very much. Keep going forward. But inside relationships, spend plenty of time going backwards. Sorry to jump in there, but I got to give credit where credit's due.
That's good, man. I think it's stretching, is uncomfortable, but it's always has a good outcome for sure. So tell us, if anybody again follows what you do, One Wheel is sure to come up. And so how did you get involved with that? And what is it about One Wheel that has you so engaged, I would say?
Okay. It's so funny. People think I work for them, and I don't. A lot of people think I'm not a pastor anymore. But really, I have a heart for unchurched people that don't know Jesus. That's always been my wiring. I figure once you're in the building, it seems to be, best of my understanding, that it should be the church's responsibility to disciple and mature those followers of Jesus, but we better still be reaching after the unchurched. And I just was trying to figure it out. A lot of our failures are trying to have an audience online. Was like, how do we do this? And we just realized, man, unchurched people aren't Googling Jesus unless they really are rock bottom or something, but they're Googling things, products, things that create a feeling. And a One Wheel does such a thing. I remember it was around Christmas time, and I just had said to Holly, I feel like we should buy one of these. And obviously a little stoked to get on one because they're really fun. And it's like surfing on pavement or trails and all those things. But really, I felt like it was genuinely guys like, no, you purchased one of these. And I was like, okay. And I purchased one, and I created a video. And when I created the first video and posted it on YouTube, which you can follow me on all of my socials, and it's just my name, just make sure you put 1 T in there, not 2. Thank you, Mom and Dad, for ruining my social media game. No one searches my name right, but nonetheless, they liked the video, and they just gave us love. Like, they sent us a package, and because of that, I've learned a lot from them and how they're a growing business, and watch how they treat their customers. I didn't feel like a customer, and it's like, okay, I'll just keep creating some content. And as we keep doing it, more people are following us and reaching out to us, and we begin to have an audience online. And really, we're just there because we love riding them, but because God's using it, right? We're not trying to tell God, get over here and bless what we're doing over here. We're going where God's blessing, and it's really easy to stay there. And to a lot of people in the church culture, other pastors and other people that church planted when I started, they don't understand it. It's a mystery to them. It's chaos. It doesn't make sense. But at the end of the day, we have heaps of people, Troy, like, oh man, I can't even count. I don't want to make up a number, I don't want to be exact. I've learned actually as I've gotten older, Troy, I've actually undershot. And so, because I exaggerate my story so much, and people think I would do that in telling what God's done. Like we did camp this summer. We had 300 kids in a park, a public park. Like, so 300 kids. Our church isn't even that big. We have 300 kids from the cities in a park, no fences. Talk about stressful. And out of 300, 58 kids gave their life to Christ. Now, when you break down the statistics there, that's a huge amount of kids finding Jesus. Well, I keep telling people, 30 people, 10 people, 20 people, and my staff keeps getting on me. They're like, why do you undershoot it? I was like, I don't know. I just don't want to exaggerate. They correct me every time. But to me, for the size church we are and what we were doing in the middle of the park, and knowing that those 300 families were unchurched, what a privilege to be able to tell the story. And to see how many people come to us and say, God let me do a One Wheel, found Scot Mendenhall, found Jesus, and my life's forever different.
Yeah. I mean, I got a real serious question after you spit all that out there is, why doesn't Lily ever do any good in the contest?
She's got headphones on. She's laughing and shaking her head. Yeah. If you watch the videos, that's a fair question. Like, one of our biggest races was for this trophy right here, which is sweet. It's the rails of a One Wheel made into a sword. And I won it, and it feels good about it. Just keep it around here to remind her of that. But I don't know. She laughs too much at the end of the day. And they all feel like because I'm a lot of the guys creating the events that I know the loopholes to, which might be some truth.
Right. But you're older than they are too.
I am. They should be beating me.
Yes, exactly.
They should, but I haven't slowed down yet. So there's some of the problem. My age doesn't tell. Well, my body isn't listening to my age yet. But I got to be fully transparent, Troy. That over on Lily's desk, there are trophies of actual races that I didn't create, where she won the women's second place at 2 big events. So she has hardware that I do not have.
So she's the WNBA champion.
Yeah. The women's league, she totally straight up is. She can contend there. But it's been really cool, even with that company. Like, I love doing ministry, and so that's never going anywhere. I'm called to do that. But I really love being able to be around a company like One Wheel is very, very creative in their marketing. And they've actually helped us in our marketing and helped us with our emails. It's become a good friendship and partnership. I was sent out to California in the beginning of June with 10 other one-wheelers. Like, just think about it. I got hand selected of the top 10 across the world to fly out there and spend a week with them talking about their new products and helping them create content and all these things. Right now I'm working with them again, it's just fun to watch what God does. Sorry for everyone at home that I'm long-winded, but I just got to brag on what Jesus does. I pitched an idea to take a one wheel to a third world country. I said, and I painted the picture. It was funny out there. People had to cast vision to a product or a video that to create. Well, I do that for a living, right? Cast vision. So I stand up and I do it. I've seen you do cast vision, right? People give divisions. And so I just started talking about, could you imagine a one wheel going down the Amazon River, down to a jungle environment where no one has got technology or seen it. And we provide them a one wheel that can ride through the jungle to go get their water every day that they walk 7 to 10 miles to get. Now they're riding a one wheel. We're cutting their time and efficiency into minutes of day versus hours. What we would be able to do with that culture in those tribes. And so they loved it. And we're in the middle of making that happen. But they're allowing me to send a team down from our church to do a mission trip. So the mission trip is now funded by a company, not the church. Do you see what I'm saying? So everybody's seen something on my social media. It's the long game we're playing to be able to continue to spread the gospel and fund it in the most unlikely ways than I think church has done in the past. And I think it's unique to us. I don't know if everybody can do that, nor are we posting that on Instagram, right? Because you don't want one wheel to feel something that they know that we're using to spread the gospel. We're very upfront on that. Like we're leveraging it and they leverage us in the same aspect. And it's been wild. Not everybody can do it. And so there you go. It's a great partnership with them. Lily had email questions. I love their style of emails. And so we've just look at their social media. Lily got to sit down with their team and they taught Lily how to do all of it. They didn't hide anything from us because they know we're not trying to sell to somebody. We're not a competitor. All the pros give us insight on what's happening in the community because we're not trying to beat the pros. We call ourselves Joes because we want the right to be able to create the community and ultimately spread the gospel.
Well, it's been fun to watch. And of course, we're excited about what God's doing in and through you and Holly and the whole team there, and excited to get to be a part of it. So thanks for being with us today. I mean, the time has flown by. I appreciate you sharing your heart. Good to see you.
Yeah, I don't know if we got to all the questions that were sent, but I figured you and I'd sit down and we probably wouldn't cover any of those and we just talk about a lot of things. But you gave me a book. I've not read that one, but I'll give you a book I just finished. It's a biography on Sitting Bull, a great Indian. Oh, man, the attitude of that guy. One of the things you should read it. It's so good. You'll enjoy it. Maybe I'll send you the link to it so you find it. Yeah. But at one point he sits in the middle of a battle, just sits down on the ground. Guns are going off and he never gets shot. But that was what drew people to him is he didn't let fear paralyze him, and kind of gave the mystique to him because he sat in the middle of a battle. Bullets flying and never took a shot to him. And I just thought, man, if we just had that tenacity as followers of Jesus, didn't care what people were going to say when we speak boldly into culture, as culture kind of wants to take and water down Jesus principles. That's what I love about you, Troy, is like when I listen to your weekend teachings and stuff, you're speaking straight at culture. You're saying, no, that's a sin or that's a no-go. Sorry. And so thank you for always towing the line and doing it with love and respect. And thank you for trusting us to take what you've taught us and bring it to the tundra of Minnesota. It's been fun.
Well, great to talk with you. And we'll talk in the future. I have to have you come back down here and bring your one wheel. All right.
I'll do it. Tell me when.
All right, guys. Hey, thanks so much for tuning in today. It is an honor to have you guys hang out with us. I've enjoyed so much getting to hear Pastor Scot, hear his heart, some of the exciting things that are going on there. You can check him out, like he said, with his name with only one T. All right, Scot Mendenhall, all over social media. He's got everything going on. And maybe you'll find out how to ride a one wheel too, as well as finding out about Christ. Good to see you guys. We'll catch you next Thursday. God bless. See you later.